I'm so sick!
Yeah, you look worse than usual.
iCarly was one of those shows that can blend in as any standard multicam sitcom, but stood out from the crowd for airing at just the right time between its premiere in 2007 to the end of its run in 2012. Now, iCarly is coming back with a revival series mid-next month on Paramount Plus, and yes, I will cover it here on the channel, so make sure to subscribe if you're interested in that topic. The revival is promised to be a slightly more adult version of the show, which is kinda cool to see it age with its audience. But we aren't talking about that just yet, so come back when that show is out and we can get into all the gritty details. Today, I wanted to speak on a more nuanced sentiment level towards the show itself, the impact that it left, and why I feel this show single-handedly related to a generation of kids and teens at the perfect time.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Take a look at where we are now with things like YouTube, Twitch, and even TikTok, a bunch of free-to-use open platforms with various different ways to express yourself and your interests with both edited and live curated content for anyone to stumble upon. It feels like forever ago, but at one point, none of these were a thing. Being a YouTuber or Twitch streamer as a full-time job would have never been thought of as a possibility. Those terms did not exist. Even when YouTube first came on the scene, and sure, people quickly adopted using it in the mid-2000s, it was just kind of a site to post silly, fun videos. There was no money, there was no career, it was just an open canvas. It wasn't until we entered the later 2000s we started seeing the new trend rise above creators hitting numbers like 1 million subs, people getting into the partnership program, creators being able to make money off ads, and we were starting to really see the foundation that would become the platform as it is today. A bustling, interconnected section of the internet with millions and millions of different and diverse creators making their own way on here. But let's look back at 2007, when YouTube was barely taking its first real baby steps into the larger space that it would become. It was commonplace on the site to see everyday people just picking up cameras and vlogging their daily lives, making skits, or even creating shows based around themselves. Nickelodeon at the time was coming down from a golden era of its live-action division of shows, and while there were still a couple of great ones either running at that time or they were showing reruns of other ones, there was nothing that would strike more fiercely or as fast as a brand new little show called
iCarly.
A show that would embrace the new online content creation craze right before the peak of interest for that craze would happen. It wasn't until the 2010s that I feel YouTube hit that big break moment, where it became mainstream, where kids were writing in that they would want to be YouTubers when they grow up instead of astronauts or the president. An era now where some of the most recognizable faces were not just coming from TV shows and movies, but from a video hosting website. iCarly dropped in 2007. It was based around a girl named... No, it was based around a girl named Carly, in which her and her two friends create a live web show out of Carly's apartment. It was mostly Carly and her friend Sam on camera doing wacky and zany things mixed in with a bunch of improvised skits and cameos from friends and other people that they knew. Over the next couple years, as the show grew, online creation platforms did as well, and so did the generation of kids and teens watching iCarly. The show often had messages sprinkled throughout its run about being you and embracing the weird, not being afraid to put yourself out there with whatever you are passionate about. The show found a fun way to balance out the morals it was trying to show, especially during an age where the internet was now a commonplace thing. The younger generation not even knowing what it was like to grow up without it. And one thing I really liked about the show is how it handled the stresses of getting any sort of relevance online in a more realistic portrayal of things you can actually face as a creator. iCarly, the web show within the actual show, was growing for the characters. It started to become a lot more popular and they couldn't even handle it at some points. Now, there were plot lines that were about tiptoeing that line of superstardom with worldwide recognition, or being able to get big guests on their show, or going to Hollywood, only to see that their ideas were getting ripped off by Hollywood execs. Stuff like that, or in general larger moments like these, would definitely be more realistic for larger creators on platforms like YouTube. At least in the early 2010s, when Hollywood and YouTube always seemed at odds, with each form of media trying to be like the other and take what they each think was working and apply it to their own projects. That's why many YouTubers started appearing in movies or getting spotlights in shows like Tosh.0. Or on the opposite side, you see YouTubers transcending from content creators to filmmakers and musicians. It's something we still see now in 2020s, but without all of the trial and error of figuring out how to make it work. It's now, again, more commonplace to see both worlds mixed into one. When iCarly was focusing on the more grounded situations, it felt more relatable to someone in similar shoes, or as a look into the future for some soon-to-be content creators. Things like having your friends and family not really understand what you're doing doing, or being recognized in public by someone who watches, to even getting haters on the content you create. It went through all of these different tropes that you or I may be used to knowing now. With a place like YouTube being around for as long as it's been, and with how this landscape has changed, most importantly during the past decade, iCarly felt like it was moving in real time with the rise of content creators. By the end of the show's initial run in 2012, YouTube was fully established, with many creators having it their full-time job, and many streamers paving the way for full-time streaming while playing video games. The show aging over those several years, not just with the viewers who were watching it, but with the way those platforms it was mirroring aged, made it so when the show came to its end, it felt like it was a goodbye. Not just because the final episode was titled I Goodbye, but because it felt like the training wheels had come off, in a way. Its direct audience were the next several waves of creators tapping into their creative potential. I'm sure a ton of people here on the platform, anywhere between the ages of 16 to 28, who watched iCarly can credit that show for helping them be brought into the digital space in some shape or form. The show ending made it feel like an introduction course you had taken, at least to see what it could be like, was now passing you, the viewer, the torch to pave your own way and create your own voice in whichever medium online captured your attention. That finale episode also jumps into something I believe is a good send-off message. And by the way, spoiler alert for the ending of iCarly, at the end of the I Goodbye episode, Carly is faced with a choice to finally spend time with her dad in the Air Force where he is stationed and take a break from iCarly and her audience online, or stay in Seattle and keep things going the way they are, living with potential regret for not having spent more time with her father, something that she has wanted for a long time, especially with the emotional impact that being separated from her father had on her being evident in this episode. With the push from her brother and friends, she decides to go with her dad, thus putting iCarly on indefinite hiatus. Freddie picks up all of his gear. Sam rides off into the night on her motorcycle, right into a spin-off show about her adventures with a redhead girl from another show, who probably has the potential to be really big one day.
Licking that chicken is making you sicken.
Carly's decision to go out and spend time away from everything she once thought was her future for her own benefit, to me, this is something I can relate to, as I personally have taken many breaks and time away from the internet before. Some were small breaks and some were year-plus long breaks, all in the pursuit of taking my mind out of this online zeitgeist headspace. I do think it's important to make sure you're okay first and foremost over anything. And when you are ready, you can always come back, and I think that this sentiment from the show sums that up quite well.
The internet will still be here when you get back.
We'll be seeing the continuation of iCarly here in about a month from the making of this video, in which the show, from everything we've seen and heard about in reports, ages once again with the viewers, and hopefully the times as well. It'll focus on a slightly more mature aspect of where these characters are in their lives now, minus a few key players from the original show like Jeanette McCurdy, who played Sam, who for her own mental health as well as her own messed up experiences behind the scenes have decided not to be involved. One thing I hope they do with the iCarly revival, if they choose to focus on the show's web show, which one would have to assume they will since, you know, it's the name of the show, is that it explores where the digital space is now, the various different content creation ventures out there, and the real issues faced online daily. I believe for the generation who watched iCarly in its prime during the rise of everything we are used to today will get something out of this show returning in a way that's hopefully kept up with its audience. Whether or not you enjoyed iCarly, I think it's important to look back on its place in history. Is it the best show ever made? I don't think so, but I appreciate its timing for being forward-thinking and embracing a new era without outright disrespecting it. And another thing that iCarly did that was so impactful at the time was it actually enveloped itself with actual creators putting themselves out there online. Especially in the early days of the show, where they would actually feature real creators' videos from the internet, and sometimes even have those creators appear on the show to guest in an episode of iCarly. The show within the show, not for the whole episode of the show, of course. To me, that just shows that the forward thinking and the inclusivity of it all was one of their more upfront priorities. I mean, they even had the #1 YouTuber at the time, Fred, come on the show for an episode. Obviously, that turned into 3 Fred movies, a Fred TV show, and all that, but the initial significance of seeing someone who made random videos on their own at their house appear on a show, whether you liked Fred or not, it felt like respect was being given to the creators paving their own path in a new space. The impact the show left when it ended, I feel, was massive. It perfectly encapsulates a more Wild West-esque time of the rise of the creators. A show based around something you at home could go do yourself right now. Pick up a camera, grab a microphone, just be creative, be you. Today, this style of creating is, again, commonplace to most. It's something younger generations of kids and teens are already aware of due to how big it all is now. But when it was new, we had a piece of programming that respected that space and respected you, the viewer's hobbies and passions. I have high hopes for a more aged up iCarly. I think that it has great potential to work if it's done properly, and like I said, I will cover it here with my thoughts on the channel next month. So if that interests you, again, please make sure to hit the subscribe button and hit that like button as well. It helps out the videos very much so. And thank you all once again for nearly 50,000 subscribers. I am truly blown away. The support and the kindness you have shown me and my content is unbelievable, and I cannot thank you enough. I'll be back with another video in a couple days, but until then, later.